I'm your host, Tyler Will, and this is another episode of 1804 History. So today I'm going to be talking about the only black student to get killed while attending Columbine High School, which they never talk about, but his name was Isiah Shoels. So what happened to everyone was a tragedy, which I don't neglect, but it was just one of those incidents that should have never happened and should have been proper precautions, should have been more safety guidelines. And the thing is that they like to, place metal detectors in just black high schools, thinking that we're more dangerous, but in this case, this was an all-white school in which the thing or incident should have never took place. And people need to understand that this kid was targeted because of the color of his skin. And that morning was complete terror. And for Isiah to just wanted to be a normal kid, wanted to just go to school and graduate and be like a regular student. He was just a senior in high school. He just wanted to graduate so he'd become a stand-up comedian, like he had dreams. And just the fact that these cowards took his life. And it's hard. It's really hard when you talk about things like this because of the fact like they don't think that we have dreams. They don't think that we have ambitions, And it's unfortunate that his dad had to represent him because he can't represent himself. And to think he would have been in his 40s by now if that didn't happen to him. But to make a long story short, he was in the library when they came up in there and started shooting people. And he was under the table. And one of the shooters said, "Oh, we got a nigger here." So they put the gun between his eyes and was really threatening on killing him. So then he goes back under the table to try to escape. Gets shot once in the chest, killing him instantly. And one of the shooters was just like, "Wow, I never saw a black man's brains go like that." So he was killed where he laid. And it just really pisses me off. And I'm not just saying that just to say this, but no wonder why the news outlets ignore him. Don't really put his picture next to the other victims like that because they want to paint this particular narrative so bystanders and Americans can be sympathetic. But what about him? When a black kid, they totally ignore him. And not saying that it was just him that we all should be sympathizing, but it's just the agenda that's being fed. But it's sad, He was just 17 years old. And when you think about that. That's a baby. That's a kid. But yeah, it's just unfortunate because two parents have to bury their child. And his dad even said that his biggest regret was not removing him from that school. And he wanted to stay there to graduate with his friends. He wanted to walk the stage. So he's buried in his cap and gown. And it's sad. You know, I couldn't imagine being put in that situation, being on the verge of death. And it just changes your entire perspective because, you know, a lot of people just don't realize how good they have it. When you think about how hard life is or how life could be, and you outlive so many people. Kids was killed. Kids was murdered. So when you think about how fortunate you are to be able to still be breathing, then you won't make such idiotic claims, or no stupidity should even come out your mouth after that. But yeah, the parents of these shooters should be held accountable or should come out and issue an apology. And the whole state of Colorado should keep on mentioning not just them victims, but him as well, because he was a victim of this tragedy. But it's just really hard to talk about this type of stuff, and just wanted to say rest in peace.
All this week, we are sharing stories of the lives changed by the tragedy at Columbine High School.
This Saturday marks 25 years since 12 students and one teacher were killed at the school. And tonight, for the first time in more than a decade, we're hearing from the father of one of those victims, Isiah Shoels.
Denver 7's Micah Smith traveled to Clarksville, Tennessee for a candid one-on-one conversation with Michael Shoels.
I try my best to ignore your calls, because I normally just start blocking around this time of the year. I put my phone on block. It's been 25 years and I've been quiet. I've been subtle. My family ain't bothered nobody, and we just got in our little corner and tried to make it ourselves. But it's come to the point that somebody got to start talking about it. My name is Michael Shoels. I'm the father of Isiah Shoels. He was one of the victims that was taken out so early in his life.
On April 20th, 1999, the shooting at Columbine High School put 13 families on a path of unimaginable grief. For Isiah Shoels' family, that grief was compounded by feelings of isolation and scrutiny. In his first interview in more than a decade, from a parlor room in Clarksville, Tennessee, Isiah's father, Michael Shoels, agrees to share his son's story.
Who was Isiah?
Beautiful. He was energetic. Most of all, he loved making people laugh. I mean, that was his thing. I mean, he was a jokester. I mean, he had it. He was a natural.
I think I read somewhere he liked music, like you.
Oh, well, most definitely. I mean, that's in his DNA. I mean, because, you know, I've been in music. I was in music before they even got here. You know what I'm saying? I've been a music producer ever since 1980 and a music executive. I asked him to come on and join me after he got out of school, but you know what he said? He said, "No, Dad, I want to go to school. I want to go to college."
Just 3 weeks from graduation, Isiah would have been one of the first in his family to go to college. But that fateful day in April changed everything.
I heard the phone ring, and my wife screamed and said, "There's been a shooting." "There's been a shooting? What you talking about?" "Up at the school," and she didn't have to say nothing else.
When they got to the school, Michael says after hours of uncertainty, A glance from one of Isiah's favorite coaches confirmed what his heart already knew.
He looked at me, tears came to both our eyes because we know that was it. They had found it.
Michael Shoels says 2 of his other children survived.
Because I don't know if I could have really kept it together if I'd have lost all 3 of my babies in that school. But thank God that for that teacher, he saved a whole lot of them and changed this whole thing around. Coach Sanders, he stood in front of my child and directed her the other way.
Your daughter, he saved your daughter.
My daughter, yes.
But Michael says that grief was immediately coupled with regret.
I have faith in the system. Not too much, but I had faith in the system. I put my guards down. I took my family to a situation that probably shouldn't have did it, but I did. We had problems after we got there with this certain group of children. You got SWAT stickers all the way through the school. You got this one particular group running around there demolishing our minority children, throwing them in trash cans, putting them in lockers.
As Michael prepared to move Isiah and his 2 other kids who attended Columbine to another school, Isiah told his dad he wanted to stay.
He wanted to stay he wanted to walk with his friends. You know, the people he went to school with. He wanted to walk with them. And he begged us. I mean, now that's a regret. If I ever had one, that was a regret right there, because we should have said no.
Immediately after the shooting, the Shoels family was one of the first in the country to call for accountability from the shooter's parents. They prepared to file a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. A barrage of criticism followed, including allegations of greed.
Was that a lonely walk?
Very, it still is. And what made me stand up and really feel that something is going to happen, something is going to get done, is when they got them parents there in Michigan. And they have to be accountable for what he did, because I really believe that if that would have happened back in 1999, some accountability, we wouldn't be having a whole lot of these shootings going on today.
Another source of criticism of the Shoels family, their insistence that their son's killing was a hate crime.
When they came in that school, they talking about I'm using a race card. When they came in that school, they know who they was called looking for. And if they say I'm playing a race card, let them say it. They said, where's that little n***? What else did they be talking about? They can say what they want to say about that. Let it so be. But the point is, I lost my child.
Michael Shoels decided to move his family to Denver to escape some of the turmoil.
We're having a house built in Denver, Colorado, in Green Valley Ranch, and someone vandalized the house before we even they put the paneling and stuff in it. They let us know that we needed to get out of there, and I did. I wasn't putting my family in no more jeopardy.
So the Shoels family moved to Texas and eventually Tennessee, where they are today.
All I can say is one day at a time, because I'll be lying if I say we only came up with some closure. We all get together and still talk about it. I mean, we all cry together. He'll come up in the conversation. That's love. That's family love. That's what keeps a family together.
Have you forgiven the shooters and their parents?
Oh, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put it this way. Through our Father God, Jehovah, I have to forgive them. But I promise you, I'll never forget it.
That is a difference from 25 years ago. You were asked that same question and you said no, you didn't forgive at that time. And now you're saying you are forgiving.
Yeah, but I can't forget it, and I will never forget it.
And what would you say to the other victims' families?
I would say God bless us all, because we all lost that day. We all went through the same tragedy. That made us family. That brought us together.
What made you decide to do the interview with me?
At Nashville shooting, when I seen them carrying them babies out. That's what did it. We want to give our deepest condolences to those families who have lost children and lost all loved ones behind this plague that's going on in America today, and that's violence. We have been there where they are today. Michael
Shoels says emotionally he's come a long way, but physically he cannot leave Colorado behind.
It's hard for me to go back to Denver. I'm going to be honest with you, it's hard for me to go back. But I have to. It's my duty to go back. My baby is buried there. I make 2 trips to Colorado a year. We was intending to stay in Denver. So we picked a particular place out, and it was just a small little tree, you know, by its grave. Now that tree is big. That tree done grown. And that makes me feel like, you know, that's something there is still growing. And that might sound crazy to you, it might sound crazy to a whole lot of people, but to me, that tree represents growth, and the children are our future. And the children are the roots of our nation. And if we keep on letting them get killed, if we keep on letting them die so early, what we gonna do? Us as a people gonna have to say,